All right, good afternoon or good morning or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. My name is Erin Satterwhite David. I use she, hers pronouns, and I am the Assistant Director for Membership here at ASHE. I'm also coming to you from Houston, Texas. That's going to be the ancestral homelands of the Calahootian people. Sorry. I just moved maybe about a little less than a month ago, and so I still have my old land acknowledgement in my head. But thank you all so much for being here. Today we're going to be doing our second Membership Monday of this year, and it's going to be focusing on our leadership pathways. So we have a lot of really good stuff coming for you. I have a bit about the organizational structure. There's going to be hearing from some folks who have been within our leadership sphere, and a little bit about their own particular pathways. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the opportunities that we have coming up soon and kind of different ways in which you might want to get involved. So before I get too deep into it, I do want to introduce our two panelists that we have today. And I would love if folks would like to just go around after that and just for the folks that we have on the call, just introduce themselves and just tell me a little bit, maybe a little bit why you are here today and what you're hoping to learn to make sure that we cover all of our bases. So I'm just going to pass it over to our past president, Dr. Jenny Hart, so she can introduce herself.
Thank you, Erin. I'm Jenny Hart. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am located on the land that was taken from primarily the Osage people. However, I am learning more and more about the Native communities that have been in Missouri, and there are over 32 indigenous communities that once lived in the state of Missouri. And as a land grant institution or a land grab institution, we have extension agents in every county in the state. And so all 32 of those Native communities clearly were impacted by the land that was taken from them, the land and waters that were taken from them. Um, Aaron, what did you ask you to talk about?
Yeah, no, introduction for right now,
Okay, good.
and
Oh,
then we'll get to the question.
I should probably also mention I'm the Dean of the Graduate School and Vice Provost for Graduate Studies and a Professor of Higher Education at the University of Missouri. I'll
As,
stop now.
as well as our past president. That's just a little. Well, thank you, Jenny, so much. And then I'll pass it over to Dion so he can tell us a little bit about himself.
Hey everyone,
Sorry, Dr. Dion Harry. Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
my name is Dr. Dion Harry. I'm an assistant professor at Oklahoma State University, which is the territorial lands that were originally inhabited and cared for by citizens of 39 sovereign tribes within Oklahoma. And so, yeah, excited to be here, excited to talk with you all.
Thank you so much. And you'll talk about this a little bit later, but Dion is currently co-chair for the CEP Mentor Protege Program, as well as was on the nominations committee for the last 3 years, correct? 2, 3 years. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And then I want to point out Ray here on the call, who's joining us as not as a presenter, but has a lot of really good knowledge that I'll be kind of asking him to maybe like get on the spot a little bit. So Ray, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Ray Middick. I'm an assistant professor of higher education at William and Mary, which is on the ancestral homelands of several different indigenous groups, largely from the Powhatan Confederacy. My involvement with ASHE, let's go back several years. I've been a program co-chair for the annual conference for a couple different sections, grad and postdoctoral students, and most recently international higher ed. I was a member of the Strategic Work Group for International Initiatives, and then just wrapping up now as a co-chair for the Strategic Work Group on Doctoral Student Recruitment.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think I appreciate you being here and kind of pulling dual duty because it just goes to show that even though you're in the pathway, actively in the middle of the pathway, that there are still some things to learn and glean through, you know, these experiences. So I appreciate that. So I would love to have the other folks that are on the call maybe just do a quick introduction since we had a smaller group, and just tell us a little bit what you're hoping to learn or a little bit about maybe your experience that you've already had with ASHE if you have it.
Hey, friends. I feel like I know a lot of you on this call.
Yes.
But I'm Dr. Stacy Garrett, she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Professor of Higher Ed and Assistant Department Chair in the Department of Counseling, Family Therapy, and Higher Ed here at Appalachian State University on the homelands of the Cherokee and a few other Indigenous groups here, also known as Boone, North Carolina. I've been involved in ASHE for a few years now. I've served as a section co-chair on a program committee, supported the CEP pre-conference forum in different ways, presenter, discussant, reviewer over the years. So yeah, already submitted my self-nomination for
Yeah,
position.
love to hear that.
I was really productive over the weekend. But when I registered, it was to kind of continue to explore that possibility and like what was next in my ASHE service. And so, yeah, just coming in to see what that looks like, what that could be, and explore possibilities. But again, over some reflection between when I registered for the workshop and today, I made the decision that it was a good time to try and pursue something new with ASHE. So, yeah, don't really have a lot of specific questions other than just to hear from folks' experiences.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate hearing that you've already submitted. So that's one less thing that I'll be pushing super actively for the folks that are on the call. But for the folks that aren't on the call, we'll be talking a little bit more about the nomination process, which is now open through the 30th. And so we'll be kind of pushing that a little hard during this process. So thank you so much for sharing a bit about your experience. And I'm glad this is going to be like, I think, a really fruitful conversation where it's going to be more collaborative and talking about where we have been and kind of where we want to go next. So appreciate you being here. All right, one more person.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kautar Benchuk. I'm a PhD candidate in the Higher Education Administration program at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. I'm happy to be in the meeting today. I would love to learn about opportunities to volunteer for ASHE conference and also the submission process of proposals. I'm thinking of submitting a proposal before the deadline. I'm thinking of my dissertation topic, but it is still work in progress now in the IRB phase. So yeah, I would love to hear about your experiences and your input, if you've presented before, if you volunteered before, any nominations that are still open. I would love to hear about all that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm loving kind of the levels of what we have on the call today, and I think it'll make for a really fruitful conversation and will be really helpful to folks who might be watching this after the fact. Oh, and then there are some other folks joining. For the sake of time, I'm going to see if I can get this other person in. My mouse has not been working, so let me see if I can get this other person in. There we are. And then we'll kind of get into a little bit more of the formal pieces. For folks who may be joining us who may not be well aware or well versed into kind of the different areas in which you can get involved within ASHE, I will say there are many. And so I'm going to do a super brief kind of overview for folks who may be just coming into this experience or maybe just need a refresher on kind of all of the areas in which you may be able to get involved. From there, what we're going to do is go into a bit of the stories from our panelists and from other folks who would like to share. And then we'll end off talking a little bit more about the nominations process. So if you give me 1 second, I will see if I can get this on. I don't know about anyone else, but my computer has just been revolting. I guess it's just getting to kind of the end of the semester and it's just been saying no. Okay, here we are. All right, so I will say as I'm pulling this design up, I'm going to show you a org chart it might be a little overwhelming to look at. Don't worry, we're not going to talk about every single piece of it, but I kind of just want to show you kind of the vast areas in which ASHE is encompassed, because really ASHE is an organization that is built on volunteering. We literally could not do it without the almost 300 volunteers who support this organization every single year. And for some reason, this is not pulling up. Let's see. Let me try it one more time. Also, my dog is beside me, so I apologize if you hear any barking during this time. Alrighty. Mm-mm. There we are. Okay, so I hope everyone can see my screen. And everyone see like a really big. Okay, great. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I'm so sorry. Stop. But there is a lot to cover. And there are some pieces that are, I think, it's still in flux. And so I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So as you can see up here, we do have our board of directors. That's one major area that is not necessarily fleshed out here. We'll talk a little bit more about a little bit in our stories. But we also have our wonderful team. There's me on membership right over here. But here, the rest of this, all volunteers, all folks that are supporting us in day-to-day pieces. And so a lot of these things you're going to see are committees. We have a committee process that happens towards the end of the year, around September. And so we actually have a full membership Monday that talks about committee processes in depth. But I do want to kind of show off the amount of committees that we have that you are able to volunteer for through your time. And so volunteering, if you wanted to do something, say that might last from 1 to 2 months or 6 to 8 months, or maybe even just a year process, committees might be a great place for you to start with those pieces. So as you can see, we kind of have our governance structure. A lot of that is going to be board of directors, but then we have other pieces where you could help with it, like the publications committees, which kind of focuses on our review of higher education. We have our awards committees, and that is the main awards committees for the 17 awards that we offer, as well as awards committees for each one of our councils. We have our ethics committees, our conference committees, and under that, there are 3 other committees there. So I heard, I know that there's some people on the call who have been a part of program committee, have supported our programming pieces. We also have folks that help and support with local community engagement, and as well as attendee engagement. We then do also have some of our other standing committees. Some of these committees are now being absorbed up into the board of directors, but there still are some other committees in which you can put your hat in the ring kind of to support, or might be appointed from our president, like the position taking committee, the grants committee, and our site selection committee, which we haven't had in the last 2 years, but we are going to actually re-implement, I believe, next year. The big thing we have is our 4 councils, and I'm hoping that after the end of this year, we'll be able to say more than our 4 councils, because we are hoping to go into an entity level process, which would include many, many other groups. We're hoping to launch maybe about 5 groups over the next year or so. And so this 4 could go to 9 or maybe 10. But within those pieces, that's where I'll be focusing a lot of our time, because the board of directors as well as the councils are where we're having our elections and nominations processes right now. And so within those spaces, their executive committees range for right now. Some of our councils might have 2 to 3 folks on their executive committees, but then there are some other councils that have around 10 to 11 folks. So there are quite a few opportunities that are out there for you if you are interested. And then we do also have that kind of entity structure shown on the kind of far right side of this doc, with some of the groups that we know for a fact that will hopefully be coming on board, would be athletics, our Indigenous Scholars Collective, our actually our collective on undocumented individuals, as well as a few others that actually aren't even encapsulated in this doc. And then we do also have a graduate student committee for those who are watching this who might be graduate students and want to be working specifically within that population. That application actually should be opening in the next week, I believe, and will probably stay open through sometime either between May 14th and May 20th. Yeah, May 20th. And so once we have that information, I will send out this recording as well as some other information, dates, and things to remember. But I just wanted to kind of give you a very quick overview of kind of some of the pieces that we have within our organizational structure. And then I do have kind of this, I'll send this out as well with that recording, just so that we don't have to go through all of kind of the nooks and crannies of it. But this is something that I usually show to folks who I give like a little bit of a longer spiel about all of the different ways that people can support. And we like to look at it through kind of your stages. So graduate students, there are certain things that graduate students can do. Our early career folks, there are certain things that you can do on top of the graduate student things that you have. And then the same thing with mid-career. And then once you get to senior scholar, there's some other things that kind of get unlocked. We had the last year when we did this, we had some folks talk about kind of leveling up. That's how they talked about it. And so I think I might start getting maybe some like royalty-free kind of Nintendo graphics for this for next year, because it really is about kind of leveling up in that process. Once you're getting to a point where not necessarily you're told you're early career scholar or you're mid-career scholar, but you kind of feel it. There are definitely some things that open up, and there are ways in which ASHE can support you as you are making those strides. And so, as you can see, there are kind of a lot of opportunities to kind of support you as you are going through those processes within your professional career, but also how you are making those strides in your professional career as you are moving up in your ASH career. So definitely a really symbiotic process there. I did talk a little bit about entities, so there is a little bit about the structures. I did kind of mention those pieces about the different committees that are a part of our entity structure. But again, we'll probably have some more in-depth discussions in later membership Mondays if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the nooks and crannies of our new entity structure. Did talk about those committees, but that is really kind of a brief overview. Also featuring my dog, if you could hear him. I know sometimes that suppression is really great, but sometimes it's not. So I talked about a lot. I did want to open it up to see if there were any questions from anyone on the call. I know a lot of the folks on the call may know kind of this information, but if there are any questions from folks who were not on the call and are watching this later, please feel free to email me and I will answer those as well. So does anyone have any questions before we kind of move to our next step? All righty. Well, then I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will open it up to our panelists so they can tell us a little bit about their experiences. So I will start off just asking the general question, um, how did you get involved in ASHE? And what has that trajectory in ASHE looked like for you? And so I'll start off with Jenny, and then Dion, if you want to take it over. And then if anyone else is interested in answering the question, because I know we have differing levels here, we'll open it up for that. But I would just love to hear from the folks who are on the call, um, those two kind of broadish questions, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Thanks, Erin. Um, so I have been an ASHE member since 1999. I would like to say that I'm not a senior scholar, but I am a senior scholar. Like, they say you're going to get that feeling when you know you're at that phase in your career. I still don't feel that way, but I know, in fact, chronologically, I am in that senior scholar phase of my career. I have been involved in ASHE since I was a graduate student. I was a student board member, graduate student board member on the ASHE ERIC report series, which probably no one on this call knows existed because it's been out of the realm of possibility for quite some time now. But honestly, it was Adriana Kizar who reached out to me and said, you should consider, this would, I think you'd be great on this committee. Would you be interested in doing so? And that's kind of how I got involved. I served as a chair, as a discussant, program proposal reviewer, ad hoc reviewer for the review. I have served as a board member on the review, conference program committee member, member of the Bobby Wright Dissertation Awards Committee. I was an executive board member for KHEP. I was on a committee to develop the policies for our ethics, for our ethics policy, and specifically focused on research ethics. I was chair of the ethics committee for a year and then stepped down because I became president-elect of ASHE. So that's kind of the the trajectory in a nutshell. Is there anything else you wanted me to mention?
No, I think that that kind of covers kind of the broad strokes of it.
Yeah, so I've been involved in various aspects, from the publication end of it, from the conference end of it, from the entities end of it, as well as from the board end of it. So I'll let Dion go from here.
All right, thank you. And so for me, I've been a member of ASHE. Just my first ASHE was in 2019 in Portland. And then I think the first year I got involved with ASHE was in 2021, and it was with CEP, so the Catholic Ethnic Participation, particularly with the Mentor Protege program. And so, full circle moment. I was in the program my first year of my doc program, and so I'll also say I'm in my first year as a faculty member. I graduated from my doc program last year, last May, and so I can speak from like the graduate student looking to get really involved, but also how it's like helped me get to this point as a first year faculty member who's about to wrap up his first year. So it's like I could kind of speak to both of that as well. But I think for me, it is an opportunity for me to learn a little bit more about ASHE. That was the biggest thing. MPP was a space for me to get a mentor, to learn a little bit more about someone else who was not at my institution. It was also 2020, so that was the first fall that fall of 2020, so it was COVID. So again, was very impactful for me just to get in the space, just to know someone else who was maybe doing similar work. And then that next year, I got involved with the committee, being a part of the planning process, and eventually became the grad rep for the program for 2 years. So really got to help plan the program to its entirety. And now I'm in my first year as the program chair. And so I think for me, I got connected to a lot of people. I got to build community. Mentorship has been really impactful for my journey and so how I got into higher ed and to become a faculty member in general. And so that was a big piece. Before then, Aaron was speaking earlier. So another opportunity, I was a part of the ASHE Board of Directors Nominations Committee, and that was opportunity. So I was a grad student, and I was doing it for 3 years. And for that aspect of, I just got to learn about the organization. Like I knew Ash, but I knew it as like a grad student, as someone who came to the conferences, who may have presented. But that was an opportunity for me just to learn, I guess, the governance structure and how the process that goes into who's on our board, how do we get our president, how do we get our president elect, and so that was very insightful for me, just to learn about ASH in its entirety. And in addition, I was able to do some proposal reviews and chair sessions at conferences. And I think as a grad student, I think that was very impactful for me just to see other people's work in the process. It gave me confidence as well, just that, okay, like it doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be manuscript ready, but it was a way for me to build my confidence, learn like what's coming, but also kind of flex my like peer review skills and start to provide peer like feedback and get in that process. And so, and then we get to the session, you get to chair sessions and learn from those scholars because typically you'll be in a session that is aligned with your interests. And so that was another opportunity for me as well. And so yeah, so that's pretty much been my trajectory. Still some things I've been involved, but I'm still like looking at the other opportunities, probably to get more involved with helping to plan the conference as itself. I think that's something that I'm looking for in the future. And so that's pretty much where I'm at. But again, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then I know that there are some folks who have been able to do some really cool things. And so is anyone interested in maybe sharing a little bit about their trajectory within ASH and kind of where they are now, kind of a little bit about that? and I don't want to put people on the spot, but I just know that there's some familiar faces in the room, so I figured I'd give the opportunity if anyone feels so inclined.
I can jump in, Aaron. I think I was started as a member in 2016 when I was a grad student. By the time I was graduating, I was doing some proposal review, and I really, really liked that. It's really got me involved in a lot of like editorial boards and manuscript review service. And then once I graduated, and I think I was finishing up my postdoc, I got involved with the program committee and really got to see how the scholarship is created and crafted and promoted. And particularly one thing I find a lot of pride in ASHE is that it highlights and promotes scholarship that's historically been excluded, particularly from other organizations. So just being a part of that process to kind of, shepherd, young scholars along, like I'm still, I think, early career. I'm going to hold on to that, Jenny, as long as I can as I finish up my fourth year on the tenure track. But, it's really kind of been something that dovetails a lot of my doctoral advising work and working with students to kind of, um, get their scholarship to manuscript ready, as Dr. Harry had mentioned, and using the ASH conference as a part of that. And then, just kind of that dovetailed into, strategic work groups because I come from an administrative background before. So I just really like sort of the nuts and bolts and kind of figuring out budgets and figuring out strategic plans and implementation and stuff like that. So it's just kind of been a natural progression over time, and it's something I've really enjoyed working on.
Thank you so much for sharing. From what I've been hearing from each of you, is this idea of finding kind of something that really piqued your interest that kind of got you into volunteering. And so tell me a little bit about, or maybe even provide some kind of advice for folks who might have the idea of where they're interested in kind of volunteering, but maybe are uncertain about how of going about being a part of that opportunity. I know that at least for me, when I started as just a member, I was really intimidated by the idea of ASH. And so I had interest, but I wasn't necessarily sure about like how to follow up on those interests, and how to kind of get myself plugged in. So could you either talk to kind of the experiences that you had doing that, or maybe give a little bit of advice for folks on the call who might be in a similar position as they're kind of contemplating going and taking that next step into volunteering? And that can be for anyone.
One thing I would say, having been on the exec committee and board over the last few years, um, well, and being the president, having to put people on committees, there are open nomination processes that ASH has for various committees, and not enough people take advantage of that. So if don't be intimidated by that. Like if there is something that you're really interested in, please use that and sign up and say, I'm interested in serving on the ethics committee, or I'm interested, whatever those committees are, and it can be multiple committees, because it's hard to know. I think it's very easy to select the same people to get involved in all of these things. And as president, you're in the position where you have to assign people to committees, and in some cases, if you don't have enough nominees, you're out there thinking about who might be a good person for that. Well, we have fairly closed networks, and so, we can really socially reproduce ourselves if we're not careful. And so it's really important, I think, to spread the word about those opportunities out there and for people to take a chance and take a risk at signing up for the possibility of being on a committee, being a board member, any of those kinds of things, I think are great opportunities that you may feel like I shouldn't be doing it because I'm at X point in my career, but you should. If you're interested in getting involved, take advantage.
Thank you so much for that, Jenny.
Yeah, and then I follow up. I am a huge like supporter of this, like cold emails, I guess. Like, and it's definitely like feels weird. It feels icky. It feels like I am in some ways begging, but I think at the end of the day, like people don't know that you're interested. unless you don't go that route, unless you say something to them. And so I think just reaching out is like the best way. And then even if you are nervous about making the direct connection, but you know someone who may be connected, like Jenny said, we're ASHE is very small. Like as I go to ASHE and I go to ACPA, ARA, and all that stuff. Like ASHE is very small, and so you may be connected to someone, maybe your faculty member or a colleague or a peer or someone knows someone who knows someone. So feel free to like take advantage of those opportunities as well, and see if that person is okay with like making the connection and kind of doing the handoff. But I think again, they won't know unless you actually say something and put yourself out there. So I think that's a great way to go about it. And then if you're thinking about like reviewing proposals, that's the sign up. So I'll plug and say the sign up to be a reviewer is April 30th.
Yes.
So
Shout out
uh,
to the plug.
so that way you don't have to go through anybody. You just get to sign up and express like your interest, but also see how and tell them how many papers you're looking to review. And then also that's opportunity for you to tell someone that you may want to chair or be a discussant. And I think that can open up some more doors in the future as well. So that would be my advice.
Love that. I'll kind of jump in and kind of speak from experience. Before I worked for ASHE, like I mentioned, I was a member, and I remember I was um, wanting to get involved, and I applied for a position and didn't get it. Um, and I was really sad about that. But then afterwards, Jason had reached out to me and was like, "Oh, I saw you apply for this. We have this new thing that we're doing. Would you be interested in helping with this?" And so I just want to kind of echo this idea of reaching out, putting yourself out there. Maybe you don't get it this year, but maybe you do, right? And if you don't, maybe there will be something else that kind of comes around the corner. Um, and I feel like at this point, if you're watching this and you are interested in something, but you don't even know who to like reach out to, you can warm call me, because at this point you're gonna know me by now. Hi, I'm Erin. Warm call me, and then I will get you connected with somebody. Or I have running lists for people too. I know that some folks email me about certain things, and I'm like, well, we don't have anything right now, but I have a list of people where I'm like, okay, so when this does come open, I'm emailing these people like, okay, we have this, we have this, we have this. Um, because like Jenny said, this can become like almost a bit of an echo chamber. Like if we're not aware of who is interested, then it's kind of hard to just like call on somebody, call on somebody like new, right? But if you kind of share that, hey, I'm interested in this, or if you reach out to one of us on the call, then there's the chance that's like, okay, at minimum now we have a name, right? We have a name, we have an interest, and we have kind of a little bit about what you're wanting to get plugged into. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there as well. So I know that there are some folks on the call who have actively went on ahead and put in their nominations, and then there's some folks that might be on the fence. What advice would you all have for folks who are maybe on the fence about submitting this year? Because I know, Jenny, you were like, if you're thinking about it, just do it. But what other advice would you might have for folks that might say, oh, I'm not sure about the timing, or I'm not sure about if I have the bandwidth, or different things like that. I feel like it's really easy to kind of talk yourself out of an experience instead of just jumping in. So do y'all have any kind of advice for folks that might be feeling that way?
I think one of the best things that ASHE does is when it advertises openings for positions, like for you to sign up, it ASHE indicates about how long they think it's going to take. And I think that's really important to be able to look at and be like, okay, maybe I don't have the time to be on the board, but maybe I have the time to, be on the dissertation committee, which has a lot of work, but it's in a very short period of time. And it's perhaps at a time that I'm not as busy as I am at other points in the year. So think about the particular volunteer opportunities and look at how long is estimated they may take, and then use that to decide whether or not you're ready to take that leap.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. And I'll also add it's okay to consider that. Hey, like, do I have the bandwidth? I think that's real. And like Jenny said, like, what other options are there? Maybe if you can't do something that's over a long period of time, maybe volunteering at the actual conference could be an opportunity. Something that you're already at the conference, you're already there. I was able to help out with check-in 1 year, like something like that. And again, we talked about trajectory, and again, all it takes is one connection or a couple of connections, and you get to know people and you get to learn about other opportunities. But I think again, starting small could definitely be a great way to go. And there's definitely opportunities, whether it be like again, maybe a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe at the conference. Like there are definitely a lot of opportunities that can definitely work with your time. And so again, just kind of going back to the last question, is asking and seeking out information and learning about all the time commitments. Definitely ask that question. That's a question I often ask. What's the time commitment and how can I make that work and let that be something that help you make your help you make your decision.
So thank y'all so much for those. I have one more question. I know that there are going to be some folks that are watching this who are um at a midpoint in their career and their experiences and are potentially considering like how to move to that next step. And so this one's for you, Jenny. Kind of um how did you continue to be motivated to not kind of stay stagnant? You know, like taking the leap to president is a big deal, right? And is really exciting. And I know some people might feel hesitant to make that next step to saying wanting to put themselves out there for a member at large for the board or to put themselves out there for the chair of one of our councils. I guess, do you have any advice or do you want to speak to kind of how you navigated um, your experiences before taking that big leap and what kind of like pushed you into making that big leap?
I'll tell you what pushed me. Um, Darren Stewart called me on the phone and said, I think you should apply. You should nominate yourself. Honestly, it was not in like, I was not thinking about it. You see these things come up on, via email and you're like, that's great. It's going to be great for so and so. It's not going to be great for me. So having somebody who I really respect had the confidence in me to say, think about it. Um, is really what pushed me over the edge. But I would say the other piece to that is that I continued to get involved in a variety of different ways. Like, for example, probably the most involved prior to, or I don't know if I should say the most involved, but the largest kind of commitment I had was regarding the ethics committee. And because I was so deeply entrenched in policy at that point, I really felt like it set me up well to actually consider the president's position. And I'm not suggesting everybody needs to memorize the bylaws, but it really did help me kind of understand the complexity of the organization to feel confident enough that if people believed in me, that I could actually pursue that job. And so, I think finding other opportunities that were going to allow me to learn the organization more was something that helped me become um, invested in wanting to take a bigger step.
I really appreciate that. I feel like that's a really it's like a really nice gym because it's kind of hard to get the scope of an experience when you're just like, well, I think I might be able to, and so I do like this idea of how these working on these other committees kind of help you have a bit of an understanding of the scope. And even though you may not have known all of the things that you might have experienced as president, I know you've gone through a lot as president. It kind of helped you like say, okay, well, I am capable of this. And so I think that is really, really great to kind of hear. And will be great for folks to like think, okay, well, maybe if I don't think I'm necessarily ready to be the chair of a council, like let's look at this committee when it comes up in September, or let's look at this opportunity. And I do also want to note that like if there are things that you are interested in that we don't already have, reach out to me. I actually had an interesting email like just this weekend about someone who was saying that they were really interested in um, undergraduate research and was wondering if we had a work group for that. And we don't. But you know, if people are wanting to do that and wanting to create something, then there's not anything to say that the board might not say, okay, well, maybe we should look into this, right? And so if there are kind of areas that are of interest and that you think ASHE should explore, we would also love to hear that too. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Um, Kind of as we are rounding out the end of our session today, I did want to share with you all our nominations website. I'm showing you my whole screen, so please, I'm so sorry about the amount of tabs I have open. It is I wish I could say it's that time of year, but it looks like this every single day. So so I just wanted to kind of highlight the nominations website. And also I love our new website that we have because it has these cute little reminders here. If you are interested in doing something like volunteering for reading applications, again, that deadline is the 30th. And so we are always looking for folks to read our proposals. And that's something that everyone can do, even if you do not have a terminal degree. So I'm gonna plug that. But I highly recommend, I know we only really have about 9 more days until the nominations are the self-nominations are up, but if you have any other extensive questions or any other like qualms about any position that you're interested in, please feel free to set up a meeting with myself or Jason. I know we're getting kind of into the wire, but we have a lot of availability. Well, at least I do. I have a lot of availability open on my calendar just specifically for this. And so if after this you still feel like I have questions or I still want a little bit more details about specific roles, feel free to reach out to us through these links. It goes straight to our Calendly. But I wanted to kind of show that we have all of the responsibilities for each of the roles here on one page, which is new this year. I'm very proud of that because we used to have like 18 pages for each of these. Every year, the board of directors, the vacancies will be the same, just kind of the ways in which this shakes out. There will always be 2 members at large that we're looking for, a graduate student, and a president. So, or at least a president-elect. And with our board of directors, because they are a little bit more time intensive, we do have position descriptions that are a little bit more like intensive that are linked here. So highly recommend looking into those if you are interested in any one of those positions. And then again, we have for each of our committees. And so the committees, I'm sorry, the councils, it will vary from year to year. And so I will go ahead and kind of just open these up just so that we have them. But it has a little bit about the functions of what they do and how long that'll be. And what I will say for at least the councils, your time commitment, I would probably say less than I'd say like 5 to 10 hours a week ish. And I'm saying more, like really more closer to 5, particularly for our graduate students, for our finance chairs, and for our secretaries. So definitely, if you're considering that, this is a really great way to kind of get started with our members at large, with our financial chairs, which are communication chairs, for each of the councils. And so we do have the information here of how to submit. It's super simple. We used to ask folks for a letter of recommendation, but we don't ask for those anymore. So the only other external document you need to have prepared is your CV. We will be asking for a candidate statement and a bit about the information of what you've done within ASHE or what you've done outside of ASHE. If you are new to ASHE and new to ASHE volunteering, do not feel discouraged by that question. If you have things, great. If you do not, it's okay. You got to start somewhere, and that's kind of how we kind of navigate that. You have to start somewhere, and so I do not want that to be a deterrent for anyone who is wanting to submit a self-nomination. As I mentioned, this will be going until May 1st, noon Mountain Time, and then we will be able to create that slate, and we'll follow up with folks probably before May 30th, probably much earlier than May 30th, but I'm just going to say that to be really like just to give some time. But the election isn't until July. And so in that time, it gives us an opportunity to create slates. You will be surprised at the amount of positions that we may not get any nominations for. And so like if you are unsure or if you're like, oh, well, there's probably going to be like so many people, the amount of times I've had to go back and say, hey, we still got positions open. So, like, if you really are interested and you're a little nervous about that, like, just go ahead and put your hat in the ring. You never know what will happen. And then once we have those slates in, then again, that process starts in July. Also down here is our lovely nominations committees. And so, as you can see, we have Jenny's lovely picture right here. We have our nominations committee for the board, which is our main nominations committee. And then for each of our councils, we have those folks there as well. So yeah, that is just a little bit about the process that's popping up in just a few days. But yeah, I want to go on ahead and just open it up, see if there were any questions. Let's see. Is there any award nomination? Yes. Okay. So there's a question about if there are award or nominations for book reviews, best book review, in uh, the any of the professional associations. So we have outstanding book awards. We have outstanding article awards, but I do not believe we have a best book review award. I think that's an interesting concept though. So something that we can go back to and kind of talk about for next year's slate. But as for this year, we have best book award and we have best article. Are there any other questions? I saw that one in the chat, so I wanted to get to that first, but any other kind of overarching questions about the nominations process? Okay. Well, are there any final words from our panelists for folks who are looking to kind of expand their leadership journeys with ASHE?
Uh, I would take from Nike is like say just do it. Like there are a lot of opportunities. Aaron showed the organizational chart and just to see the different organizations and the different communities, different groups. And I think just start somewhere. Again, there are a lot of opportunities to get in, get involved, get engaged, and again, Aaron said earlier, just it takes one step. It have to start somewhere, and so I would definitely say do that. But again, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out, because that's a lot of where those connections start. So that's probably my main thing.
Yeah, I guess I would also say, I mean, cold calling is hard, but I would say most people welcome the opportunity. So if you know somebody has done a position that you're familiar, that you're kind of interested in, I would say, reach out to that individual, and, ask them, how did they get involved, or how do I get involved in this? I see you're doing X, Y, Z, or you did this in the past. Take advantage of that opportunity because people really are, if they have been involved in ASHE, they are committed to the association and understand the importance of volunteers and will hopefully do right by you to kind of get you on a path that will get you in areas that you're interested in. Yet last year I was putting together a commission to look at artificial intelligence. Um, and I identified some folks who I knew I wanted on the committee because of their work in that space. And the one of the co-chairs of the committee said, well, I have this doctoral student who's writing a dissertation on this. I think she would be great for the committee. I would never have thought of her had that, not happened. And so, I also think if you're in a position to elevate somebody, also do that, recognize the expertise that those around you bring and, encourage them to get involved too, because sometimes it does take a little nudge. And so if you're in a position to give a nudge, by all means, please do that.
Absolutely. I really appreciate those parting words, particularly in lifting up others. I feel like that's going to be the way in which Ash is able to really like bloom. Um, I know that for a long time it was very much like a if you know somebody, then you know somebody. And I feel like there have been really, really wonderful concerted efforts over the last decade to um, expand because there's so much knowledge out there. There are so many excellent folks out there, and we want we want you, right? We want your expertise. We want um what you bring. And so if there is someone in your life that maybe has not seen this or is not here today, please forward this to them. It'll be on YouTube on the 22nd. So definitely I'll make sure to send out the link, forward that link to whoever, and really encourage folks to kind of put themselves out there, because we really want to expand the knowledge and the understanding of higher education, and the only way to do that is to expand our circles. So, I just want to say thank you so much to Dr. Hart, Dr. Harry, Dr. Middick, Dr. Garrett, who talked to us a little bit earlier today, and everyone who is on the call with us, as well as the folks that are watching this after the fact. I really appreciate you all taking the time out to support ASHE in this way, because like I said at the beginning, we literally could not do this without each and every one of you. So if you have any outstanding questions, I'm always here for you. If you need to do a warm call, I'm also here for you. And I'm sure that the folks on the call feel the same. But otherwise, thank you so much and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you.